In the stillness of the night, when most of Eastern Europe is asleep, the skies above Poland have become an uninvited battleground. The soft hum of engines, barely audible against the wind, cuts through the silence as Russian drones drift across the border. These aren't accidents, nor are they navigational errors. They are deliberate incursions, bold messages wrapped in the body of unmanned aircraft, and each one carries the weight of history, of strategy, and of dangerous provocation. For Poland, a proud NATO member and neighbor to Ukraine, the question is no longer whether these drones represent a mistake, but rather what they mean for the fragile line between war contained within Ukraine and the terrifying prospect of conflict spilling over into the heart of Europe. The story begins not in the skies of Poland but in the long and bitter shadow of the Ukraine war. For more than 3 years, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has shaken the world, upending borders, lives, and alliances. What began in 2022 as a shock assault on Kyiv has since transformed into a grinding war of attrition, with Ukraine fighting for survival and Russia adapting its tactics to stretch the patience of the West. As sanctions spike and military support flows from Europe and the United States to Ukraine, Moscow has increasingly turned to unconventional methods to demonstrate its power. Drone warfare has become a central pillar of Russia's strategy. Cheap, expendable, and difficult to intercept, drones have targeted infrastructure, cities, and supply lines deep inside Ukraine. But now, those drones are crossing borders, sometimes into Romania, sometimes into Slovakia, and most recently, into Poland. For Poland, these incursions are more than a technical breach of airspace. They are a direct challenge. Poland has been one of Ukraine's staunchest allies, a transit hub for weapons, aid, and supplies flowing into Kyiv. The world has seen long convoys of tanks and armored vehicles shipped from the west to Poland before crossing into Ukraine. Poland is the logistical lifeline that keeps Ukraine fighting. For Russia, sending drones into Polish skies is a way of saying, "We see what you are doing, and we can touch you, too." Even if the drones are not armed, even if they crash harmlessly in empty fields, their presence alone sends chills down the spines of military planners in Warsaw, Brussels, and Washington. The latest incident involved several drones reportedly crossing into eastern Poland, with radar confirming their flight paths. Some were shot down, others disappeared into the night. For local residents, the sight of foreign drones drifting overhead is more than unnerving. It is a reminder that war is closer than ever. Farmers in rural areas have found drone debris scattered across their land, twisted metal fragments bearing Cyrillic markings, evidence that this was no accident. Each discovery adds fuel to a growing sense of vulnerability. Polish officials have condemned these incursions in the strongest terms, summoning Russian diplomats and alerting NATO partners. Yet the responses remain cautious, calibrated, careful not to trigger an immediate escalation. Here lies the dilemma. NATO, the world's most powerful military alliance, operates on the principle of collective defense. An attack on one member is considered an attack on all. Article 5, the cornerstone of NATO's treaty, has been invoked only once in history after the September 11 attacks in the United States. So the question echoes across Europe. Does a drone crossing into Polish territory constitute an attack? Does debris falling on a Polish village qualify as an act of aggression that could ignite a broader war? The ambiguity is deliberate. Russia knows exactly how to walk the tightrope, pushing boundaries without crossing the red lines that would guarantee NATO retaliation. Each drone is a test, a probe, a chess move in a game where miscalculation could spell disaster. As the drones enter Polish skies, NATO radar systems light up. Command centers in Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States are alerted. Fighter jets scramble, interceptors are deployed, and air defenses brace for impact. Yet the drones are small, slow, and elusive. Shooting one down costs hundreds of thousands of dollars in missile defense, while the drones themselves cost a fraction of that. This asymmetry is part of Russia's strategy, to drain resources, to exhaust patience, to normalize the idea that the war cannot be contained within Ukraine's borders. But the real danger is not just the drones themselves, it is what they represent. Each incursion chips away at the illusion of stability. Each violation erodes trust. Each provocation increases the chance of a tragic accident. Imagine, For a moment, a Russian drone striking a Polish home, killing civilians. Imagine NATO soldiers stationed in Poland injured in an attack. The pressure on NATO leaders to respond would be overwhelming. And in that moment, the world would stand at the edge of a precipice, staring into the possibility of a direct Russia-NATO confrontation, a nightmare scenario that would dwarf even the horrors of Ukraine. To understand why Russia takes these risks, one must look at the broader strategic picture. Moscow is locked in a long war with the West, not just on the battlefields of Ukraine, but in the realm of politics, economics, and global influence. Russia believes that NATO is overstretched, that Western unity is fragile, and that by applying pressure at the edges, it can expose cracks. Poland, sitting on NATO's eastern flank, is both a symbol and a vulnerability. By sending drones into its airspace, Russia signals that it can reach into NATO territory without fear of immediate retaliation. It is psychological warfare, aimed at sowing doubt and fear, both within Poland and among its allies. Meanwhile, Poland is not passive. It has invested heavily in its military, ordering advanced fighter jets, tanks, and missile systems. Polish leaders speak openly of being ready for confrontation if necessary. The people of Poland, shaped by centuries of conflict and occupation, understand the price of freedom and the cost of complacency. Their resolve is strong, but they also understand the stakes. War with Russia would not be limited to drones and border incidents. It would unleash destruction on a scale not seen in Europe since World War II. NATO leaders meet in emergency sessions, weighing their options. Some argue for a stronger military response, shoot down every drone, increase patrols, deploy more troops to Poland. Others counsel restraint, fearing escalation. The alliance walks a fine line, balancing deterrence with diplomacy, strength with caution. Behind closed doors, scenarios are war-gamed, red lines are drawn, and contingency plans are updated. The tension is palpable, because everyone knows that one wrong move, one miscalculation, could set events spiraling out of control. Ordinary people, however, live with the uncertainty. In Polish towns near the border, families wonder whether they are safe. Parents watch their children play under skies that no longer feel secure. Farmers tend to their fields, only to find fragments of war littering their soil. Across Europe, news of these incursions fuels anxiety, reviving memories of a continent once torn apart by war. In the United States, commentators debate whether American soldiers should be drawn into yet another conflict overseas. And in Moscow, the Kremlin watches carefully, gauging reactions, calculating risks, and planning its next move. The broader implications extend far beyond Poland. If Russia succeeds in normalizing drone incursions, what stops it from escalating further? Could missiles follow drones? Could cyber attacks cripple infrastructure in NATO states? Could propaganda campaigns undermine democratic unity? The battlefield is no longer confined to trenches and tanks. It spans the digital world, the skies, and the hearts and minds of people across continents. And in this battlefield, every drone is a weapon not just of war, but of psychology. As we stand on the edge of uncertainty, one truth is clear: the line between local war and global conflict is dangerously thin. Each drone that crosses into Poland is a reminder of how fragile peace is, how quickly the world can slip from uneasy stability into chaos. The story of these drones is not just about Poland, not just about NATO, and not just about Russia. It is about the future of international order, the question of how far one nation can go before the world says enough, and the terrifying realization that we may be closer to that point than we think. The skies above Poland may appear calm in the daylight, but beneath that calm lies a storm brewing, a storm of politics, provocation, and peril. The world watches, waits, and wonders what will happen when the next drone crosses the line. Will it be dismissed as another violation? Or will it be the spark that ignites a conflict none of us are prepared to face? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: history is being written not just in the trenches of Ukraine, but in the silent shadows of drones drifting across the Polish sky, carrying with them the weight of possible war.